Welcome back. Today, my main goal is to get you started on reaching your weight goal. I'm going to do this by revealing several tenets of the query theory diet. I'm not going to go into all the details and the reasons I believe each of them to be true. I'll save that for later. For today, I'll introduce you to my beliefs with just a brief explanation. Tenet number 1, calories matter. I understand that different foods can affect our metabolism differently than other foods, but at the end of the day, it cannot be argued that our bodies use energy to operate, and that energy comes from the food we eat, directly or indirectly. If the energy our body needs to operate is not supplied directly from the food we eat, our body will convert parts of itself to supply the deficit. Conversely, if we consume more energy from the food we eat than our body expends, it stores that extra energy for future consumption, which leads to tenet number 2. If your body has excess fat, it is because you are consuming too many calories for how much energy your body needs to operate. Period. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. I'll definitely go into further details in a future video on this topic, as I know there are a lot of resources out there that appear to disagree. Tenet 3, it is not what you eat, but how much you eat. Eat too much of anything and you'll gain weight. And listen, as this is the most important thing I'm going to say today, eat too little of anything and you will lose weight. I maintain the belief that someone could lose weight only by eating desserts if they don't eat too much. Conversely, there are overweight vegetarians and vegans because they eat too much. If you consume too many calories, you consume too many calories, no matter if that source of calories is good or bad. By the way, do not take what I just said as some sort of commentary on vegetarians, vegans, or desertarians. I really don't care what people eat or don't eat to lose weight. Science and math tell us that a pound of fat contains 3,500 calories. This week, I want you to eat between 250 and 500 less calories per day than you normally would during your typical week. And this will result in a half a pound to a whole pound of fat loss. I did not design the query theory diet to be a counting calorie diet in the long term. Expecting to count calories every day for the rest of your life is doomed to failure. I'm going to use the Noel Birch 4 stages of competence to explain how this is going to work. Stage 1 is called unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. As an example, a teenager's first attempt at driving, especially if it's a stick shift car. Initially, before trying, they do not recognize their own incompetence. He or she has very little idea of all the coordination involved in releasing a clutch, applying gas, the difference between starting on a flat road versus a steep hill, what dangers to look out for, how long it takes to stop, and so on and so on and so on. This is unconscious incompetence. They didn't know all the skills needed to drive safely and successfully. However, they may observe parents, the driver's ed teacher, and peers and realize that others are achieving better results than they are. If they accept that there is something to learn and practice to improve, they are starting to enter stage number 2. Stage number 2 is conscious incompetence. The driver now knows they have a lot to learn and need to practice to improve their driving skills. Only when someone is conscious of their incompetence will they be willing to learn. Experienced drivers can point out ways to improve, and the teenager will have a choice to believe the advice or not. If they accept the suggestions, they will enter stage 3. Stage 3 is conscious competence. The driver knows there is room for improvement because they know what they are doing wrong and have been told and shown the skills to improve. The driver must concentrate on the coordination of the clutch and the accelerator. They consciously adjust their mirrors and seat. At this stage, the skills do not come naturally. They must be worked, which eventually leads to stage 4, unconscious competence. The skills practiced over and over become natural, and there doesn't have to be any thought involved to perform the skills. This is where most of us are as drivers. We get to point A without even remembering how we did it. Let's look at how these 4 stages work in terms of losing weight. To be in stage 1, unconscious incompetence, you'd have to have no clue that food consumed and your weight have anything in common with one another. I doubt this is the case if you're watching this video. To be in stage 2, conscious incompetence, you know that what or how much you eat is causing you to be overweight. Most dieters are here or in stage 3. Stage 3 means you have the skills that you are consciously practicing to achieve your healthy weight. You think and analyze every time you stick food in your mouth if it is what you should be eating or not, based on what you've been taught. Stage 4 means that you've mastered the skills to maintain a healthy weight and you no longer think about it. You don't need willpower to do the right thing to stay at a healthy weight. I have a lot of things to say about willpower and motivation, and in a nutshell, if you need willpower and or motivation to lose or maintain your healthy weight, you'll never be in stage 4. And you must be in stage 4 if you want to be a long-term success. What I see most dieters do is toggle between stage 2 and 3. They are in stage 2, and they know they must change to lose weight, so they pick a diet that appeals to them and go into stage 3. However, that diet that they chose never feels natural and feels forced. It is simply too unfamiliar. There are too many changes too quickly. Those changes that are made in their normal routine, they are not willing to do for the rest of their lives. Because of this, stage 4 is never attained, and eventually they slide back to stage 2 and pick another diet. For this week's homework, you must figure out what you are going to practice while in stage 3 that you feel you can do the rest of your life, most of the time. You don't have to be perfect. So here's how it's going to work. You already know what you're doing wrong. You know what you're eating too much of and when. This might require some introspective contemplation, but I doubt it. Be brutally honest with yourself about your eating habits that you know or suspect are causing you to be overweight. Ask your friends, or better yet, ask your enemies what they perceive you to eat too much of. Write them all down in a big long list. From that list, pick one of those eating habits that you must cut back to reduce the number of calories you consume in a typical week, and then calculate how many calories that would be. As an example, I'm going to pick eating snacks while watching TV. Here's the core of the query theory diet. Once you pick something from the list, you're going to ask yourself some questions. Here is the first question you're going to ask. Are you willing to stop eating a snack while watching TV for the rest of your life? If the answer is yes, move on to the coin flip. If no, keep it on the list, but go back and pick another item until you can answer yes to doing it for the rest of your life. So what is this coin flip? A coin flip will be used to help determine if you were honest in the first question that you asked about being good for the rest of your life. So here's how it's going to work. The coin flip actually doesn't decide whether you do it or not. The coin flip decides how you feel about whether you're going to do it or not. It does this by looking at your initial gut reaction to the result of the coin flip. So say these out loud. Heads, I will stop snacking while watching TV for the rest of my life. Tails, not eating snacks while watching TV is too hard for me at this moment. Flip the coin and immediately notice your gut reaction to the result. If it lands on heads and you feel discouraged, sad, scared, disappointed, or some other negative emotion, then you need to go back to the list and do it all over again. However, if you felt perfectly fine and excited and encouraged that you are taking one incremental step towards what you want, then it's a keeper. If tails is the result, your reaction should be opposite of heads. If you strongly disagreed if tails was flipped, you are good to go. If you felt relief at tails, then it's time to go back to the list and do it all over again. Now, let's do this week's weigh-in and see how I did. Alexa, what day is it?
Today's Saturday, January 13th.
Okay, let's fill in the spreadsheet for this week. So for this week, I weighed 196.9. I've added a couple more columns since last week. Weight loss, this is always going to be equal to this number up here that I started with, 199.9 pounds. And I'm going to subtract what I actually weigh. So I've now weighed 3 pounds less than what I started. And then I also have a comparison to the goal, and I've lost 2.1 pounds more than the goal of 199. This is a little bit more than I'm used to, but then again, I did a lot of changes this week. The first time that I did this program, I only did lose about an average of 1 pound a week, but I only did one thing at a time initially. I suspect that next week will not be nearly as good as this, but we'll find out.